In 1964, a physicist proved that two particles separated by any distance in the universe remain permanently connected. The Bhagavad Gita described the same principle 5,000 years earlier and called it karma. John Bell was not looking for God. He was a quiet Irish physicist at CERN, a man who preferred equations to philosophy. But in 1964, he published a theorem so disturbing that Einstein himself had refused to accept its implications. Bell proved that when two quantum particles interact, they become entangled. From that moment forward, whatever happens to one particle instantly affects the other. No signal, no delay, no connection you can see or measure. Just consequence, across any distance, across any amount of time. When Bell's colleagues read his paper, several of them said the same thing. This sounds like karma. They were joking. They weren't wrong. In the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 3, Krishna tells Arjuna something that stops him mid-conversation. Every action you perform leaves an impression in the field. That impression does not disappear. It echoes through time, through lives, through the very structure of reality. The Sanskrit word is samskara, the groove left by action in the fabric of consciousness. Modern physics calls the same principle non-locality, the inability of two entangled particles to ever be truly separate again. Today we are going to follow that parallel precisely, scientifically, all the way to the practice the Gita prescribes to break the cycle. Here is what Bell actually proved. Take two particles, allow them to interact, then separate them. Put one in your lab, send the other to the opposite side of the planet. Now measure the spin of the particle in front of you. The instant you do, the other particle, millions of kilometers away, adopts the corresponding state. Not after a signal travels. Not with any visible mechanism. Instantly. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. He spent the last decades of his life trying to disprove it. Bell proved he was wrong. The universe, at its most fundamental level, is non-local. Actions here have consequences, there with no gap, no delay, no separation in between. The word karma comes from the Sanskrit root kri, meaning to act. But in the Gita, Krishna is not describing a reward and punishment system. He is describing a physics. As you act, so the field is configured. As the field is configured, so your next experience arises. Not as punishment, not as divine judgment, as consequence written into the structure of reality itself. This is the parallel Bell stumbled into. Action creates entanglement. Entanglement creates consequence. Consequence shapes the next action. The cycle is the field. Physicists now identify three properties of quantum entanglement that have no classical explanation. The first is non-locality, the effect we just described. No distance breaks the connection. The second is non-separability once entangled. Two particles cannot be fully described as independent systems. They become one system expressed in two locations. The third is correlation without cause. The outcomes are correlated, but there is no mechanism, no force, no particle carrying information between them. The Gita describes samskara with the same three properties. Karma is non-local, it operates across lifetimes, not just this moment. Karma is non-separable. The actor and the action cannot be cleanly divided. Karma is correlation without visible cause. You experience consequences with no obvious thread connecting them to the original action. As a fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror by dust, so the self is covered by samskaras. Gita, Chapter 3, Verse 38. In 1982, French physicist Alain ran the definitive test of Bell's theorem. He built an apparatus that measured entangled photons at two detectors 12 meters apart, changing the measurement settings after the photons were already in flight. The photons still correlated, even with no time for any signal to pass between them. Aspect's experiment confirmed what Bell had proved mathematically. The The universe maintains connections that have no physical mechanism. In 2022, Aspect won the Nobel Prize in Physics for this work. 40 years after the experiment, the Vedic tradition had a word for the field that maintains these connections: Akasha. The non-physical substrate in which all actions leave their impression and from which all consequences arise. Here is where the Gita corrects the popular misunderstanding. Most people interpret karma as moral accounting, good deeds credited, bad deeds debited. Balance due. Krishna never says this. What he describes is closer to what physicists call configuration space, the total state of the quantum field, shaped by every interaction that has ever occurred within it. The Atman is never the doer. Actions belong to the field of Prakriti nature. But the ego believes itself to be the agent. That belief is the samskara. Gita, chapter 3, verse 27. The entanglement is not between you and a cosmic ledger. The entanglement is between your sense of self as separate and the consequences that sense of separation generates. This is not poetry. This is what the physics implies. When you act from the belief that you are an isolated system separate from the field, you behave as if non-locality does not apply to you. But it does. It always does. Before we go further, notice something right now. Think of a recurring pattern in your life. A type of situation that keeps returning. A relationship dynamic, a financial pattern, a specific kind of conflict. Don't analyze it. Just notice that it recurs. That recurrence, the Gita says, is not coincidence. It is not punishment. It is the field showing you the shape of an unresolved entanglement. The question is not, why does this keep happening to me? The question is, what is the belief that keeps generating this configuration? This might feel abstract. It isn't. Modern neuroscience has a name for the biological mechanism behind samskara: long-term potentiation. When neurons fire together repeatedly, they wire together. The pathway becomes the default. The response becomes automatic. A samskara is a grooved neural pathway, a conditioned response so deeply encoded that it activates before conscious thought arrives. You don't choose the reaction chooses you. This is measurable biology, and it maps precisely onto what Krishna describes as the mechanism of entanglement. The senses are powerful. They drag the mind drags the intellect, and the intellect, overcome, destroys the witness. Gita, chapter 3, verse 42. The witness, the Atman, is never destroyed, but it gets covered, obscured, like a mirror, by dust. The practice the Gita prescribes is not moral improvement. It is neural rewiring through disidentification. Chapter 3 of the Gita contains Krishna's solution. It is called Nishkama Karma, desireless action, or more precisely, action without attachment to outcome. This is not indifference. It is not passivity. It is a specific state of the nervous system in which action arises from the level of the field itself, rather than from the contracted ego self that believes it is separate. When aspects photons are measured, the correlation happens without any mechanism. There is no effort, no signal, no separation between cause and effect. Let right deeds be thy motive, not the fruit that comes from them. This is the Gita's instruction for replicating that state in a human life. Act completely, fully, with total engagement, but act as the field acts without the separate self clutching the outcome. When you act from that place, you stop generating new samskaras. Not because you become passive, because the actor that creates entanglement, the contracted ego, is no longer running the action. Here is the shift the Gita is pointing toward. You are not the particle that got entangled. You are the field in which the entanglement occurred. The particle believes it is separate, and so it accumulates consequences. The field knows it was never separate, and so it is free. He who sees inaction in action, and action in inaction, he is wise among men. Gita, chapter 4, verse 18. You are not trapped by karma. You are the awareness in which karma arises and dissolves. We are going to do a short practice now. This is the Gita's protocol, applied directly to the pattern you noticed earlier. Find a comfortable position. Close your eyes if you are able. Take one slow breath in through the nose. And release completely. Notice the space after the exhale. That space, effortless, uncontracted, is where this practice operates. Bring the recurring pattern to mind again, the situation that keeps returning. Now, instead of asking why it happens, ask this: who is it happening to? Notice the sense of me that feels affected by this pattern. Notice that you are aware of that sense of me. The awareness is not the pattern. The awareness is not the me that suffers the pattern. You are the field, not the entangled particle. From this place of awareness, notice what action, if any, arises naturally, not from fear, not from the need to resolve or fix. Just what arises when the contracted self steps back. This is Nishkama Karma, action from the field, without new entanglement. Take a slow breath in. And gently return. Next week, we explore how Nikola Tesla's obsession with 3, 6, and 9 maps directly onto the Vedic biological protocol for activating the body's coherence field. The mathematics he spent his final years on the Vedas encoded 3,000 years earlier. Take 2 final slow breaths. The field remembers nothing that needs to be held. You are already free.